confidence when you're inundated and barraged with everyone telling you, forget this stuff, forget the fact that we were founded in God, it's a new day, you have to have something to stand on.
You think a group that's against this, let's say the individuals are sort of against us thinking about God.
You mean
would
all
want to remove
TV,
that?
media,
There you go.
that magazines.
There you go. That group is radical.
They're radical.
Yeah.
They
You believe
it.
young people, the ones that get excited about music, they ought to get radical for what is right and meaningful.
Something they believe in. When I left David Barton that one day at the Capitol building, Toby, our manager, and myself, we were fired out. We were like, as Toby said, we got to do something. I'm like, you know, I had this new ignited faith and truth, you know, and still like, wait a minute, this is how we were founded. This goes hand in hand with my faith, my walk with Christ. Mm-hmm. We've got to talk about it. It fired me up.
Over and over, God told his people, he admonished them in the Old Testament, remember what I've done. Remember, remember, remember. And it's like all the forces of destruction are focusing their energy to get us to forget. To think about eat, drink, and be merry. Live today, right now. And isn't it amazing how many people are trying to live today and they're so obviously empty? I mean, they don't have any life. But if you will remember, and that's what I said, you wrote a book of remembrances. I mean, you actually point us to some very famous people, but you also point us to some very obviously unknown individuals whose life was as powerful in its impact on the people around them as the well-known or famous people in history. Yeah. And I think some of those stories are the most dramatic, emotional, and heart-touching of any that you read in the book. And I want to thank you. Don't you appreciate these guys who are gifted musicians saying, I want to do something for everybody else? Do you see what you're doing as trying to do something for the future, for children and their children? Is that what you sense in your heart?
Absolutely.
I believe this is a component, this is a part of the process. As they grow up, get older, this is hopefully something that will go inside their hearts and minds and be a part of the educational experience in their life. Because this is something that, you know, this is a history book. It's a spiritual book. It's a book about who we are, where we come from.
A lot of people almost, they read one a night before they go to bed, or they read it to their kids. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is not just a book for youth culture.
It's not for young people. This is for everybody. But young people can get it. In other words, it's presented in a way, to be very honest with you, older people, they need a little short attention getters too. I mean, they might be a bigger challenge than kids, but it is for everybody. This is not something written for kids. That is really the truth. This is absolute history. It is something that it ought to be a college textbook. Yeah. It certainly ought to be a high school textbook, because it's really it's taking us back to the truth about our heritage.
What amazes me still the most, and I can't say it enough, is what people that we, you know, there's some famous people in this book, but not so famous also, but the ones like John Adams, one of our presidents, he said this, another quote here, if I may read it.
Sure.
It says on the back of the book, statesmen may plan and speculate for liberty, but it is religion and morality alone which can establish the principles upon which freedom can securely stand. You hear that? I mean, this guy, this wasn't some guy who just stumbled across, you know, some cool quote or wrote something one night, you know, having a, you know, I mean, he thought about that. This came out of his heart, out of his faith life.
You know, to me, there's nothing more effective in a person's life than personal testimonies of others. You know, they can bring encouragement, they can bring stability, and make you just feel better about yourself. The actual testimony of another person. So it would affect your decisions that you make in life.
And when you hear a leader like John Adams speak like that, or MLK say something, you go, wow. I mean, a leader says something with some depth to it, some substance.
See, we have a lot of talk about democracy today. But you see, if you don't understand the importance of self-rule and self-government, then you just have mob rule. Mm-hmm. And a democracy ruled by a mob that has no understanding of restraint or selflessness, and all they think about is selfishness and self-indulgence and dog eat dog and my way and power rules, then you have what will ultimately anarchy and ultimately end up being a dictator. The biggest, most powerful stick wins. And really, we're talking a lot about in the Middle East having democracy. But if they don't understand the pillars of democracy, self-rule, it'll never work there either. You'll still just have the ones with the biggest stick ruling. And our founders understood that if an individual wasn't under the control of a force, and they referred to divine providence. They referred to the supreme being. They referred to God. They even unapologetically didn't impose God on anyone. They recognized that God is as real as the sun. And I mean, I love the statement that I believe in Jesus as I do in the Son, not because I see it, but because by him I see everything else. That's how we see it. They understood that only under the control of a supreme force of authority can democracy even work. And that's why our founders literally established the basis of this government on the principles of the Word of God. And that's what this book irrefutably, undeniably portrays. That's why you got excited about wall builders.
Yeah. And I hope it makes people question, what have we become as a culture? What is my generation becoming? What will we become,
I just want people to read this, even specifically those believers out there. Sure, it's for everyone, but the believers out there that believe we are one nation under God, for them to walk confidently, and this is the kind of information we need to walk confidently.
See, you guys are declaring what the founders believe. You're declaring what you believe. But if you didn't demonstrate it in your life, if you didn't love people, you didn't love your families, didn't really care about others, then your life would deny everything you say with your mouth. You have called our attention to people who lived what they believed. You are living what you believe, or I don't think this crowd would have come here to listen to you. Am I right about that? Do you appreciate the way they live? They're more than musicians. Let me just encourage you. This will make a wonderful gift, and I would highly suggest you get it. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm telling you, somebody went to a lot of trouble to design this artistically. And I mean, it is graphically illustrated. I mean, it looks like it's printed on parchment. I mean, it's a great concept. I mean, you start thumbing through it and you'll just sort of light on different pages and you'll come away with great truth. Get it. It's in the bookstores. You can go online and get it. And may I suggest that you get a copy? Why don't you try to see that every young person has this? Now, think about this. It's for everybody. I mean, mom and dad, you can start by reading it. Grandmother and granddad, you can read it. You'll like it. But let me tell you this. If you've got young people you care about in your church or your community, this would be an incredible gift. I mean, for special occasion, and there's special occasions now. Get it in their hands, see that everyone has it. Something some of you businessmen might do, say, I want to give it to all the young people in our community or our church. And hopefully some schools will have the foresight to actually get it and put it in the schools. Again, would you like to say thank you to Toby Mack and to Michael Tate? Appreciate you guys a whole lot. Really and truly, what you're doing and what you've talked about, what they do with their lives, is what all of us are supposed to do, and I'm going to ask you to join us. We are going to join hands